What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video for the First Descendant today, we're going to be talking about the patch that's coming on the 1st of October. There was a dev chat for it a couple of days ago, and I kind of just want to summarize it. As usual, these dev chats are like an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours long, and that's because of the translations and everything like that. So it's a hell of a lot of information to scan through. I kind of just want to help out a little bit if I can. But there's quite a bit to go through, so without any further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right in. First things first, as absolutely no surprise, I think the thing that probably has most people kind of excited for this patch is the swords. I'll be honest, firstly, for me, this is not something that I was particularly looking forward to. I don't generally like swords in games like this, in looter shooters, stuff like that. I prefer to do my killing with a weapon from afar, or at the very least with some abilities or grenades or something like that. But nonetheless, I know that there's a huge battalion of people that are kind of really into this whole idea. And so, yes, we are getting 2 swords. Now, these swords can kind of be broken down to, I guess you could say, one is a mobbing sword, which is the Shadow, which is kind of like a katana. And then there's a bigger sort of broadsword, claymore kind of vibe, which has got a really weird name. It's like Deus Ex Manus or something like that. And that's perhaps considered more like the bossing sword. Now, both of these swords use ammo, which is kind of one of the reasons why I don't get fucking swords in a game like this. I feel like if you're gonna build this shit into a game, then build some stamina mechanic or something into it that just makes a little bit more sense. I feel like if you're doing this and you're putting ammo into the swords, it's just fucking cooked. But either which way, these swords will use ammo. They can produce combos which use this ammo, as well as they have special attacks as well. Now, you can still use the swords to, I guess, pull off one hit at a time or something like that if you don't have any ammo in the tank. However, you do need ammo to be able to pull off these special attacks as well as the combos. And so therefore, obviously, you'll want to be getting, ammo into these weapons. Now, you can also use a defensive stance when you use these. So I don't know if that's supposed to basically help you just deflect bullets and everything like that. From the footage that we saw, that wasn't necessarily that clear. But these weapons, these swords, can also be modded pretty much like the firearms that we have in the weapon in the game right now, which means that you can install modules on them. So we're also going to see a whole bunch of sword-specific modules. These modules can obviously increase the attack of these weapons, but also their speed and so on. So they did demonstrate the difference between that with just basic attack speed versus juiced up attack speed. Massive difference. I think obviously it's going to make a lot of sense, like with everything in this game, to just jack up the attack speed. But yes, this is something that you're going to be able to do. There's also a external component set that comes, which is kind of specifically for the set, for the swords. It's called the Manus set. And this will essentially have a 2-piece bonus, which gives you a little bit of more melee sword damage. And then a 4-piece bonus, which essentially stacks up stacks. And then when you get a certain amount of stacks, it boosts up your damage and everything like that. So swords, I'm sure there's going to be more of these coming down the line, but the first 2 of these will be added into the game on the 1st of October. Then may God have mercy on our soul, because we are going back to the Void Vessel. So complete surprise out of the fucking left field here, but we're getting a different wing or an addition to the Void Vessel. What they're calling it right now is the medium-sized facility section, which is not exactly a name that rolls off the tongue. I'm not gonna lie, it could have perhaps had a little bit of a cooler name. But yes, this is a new area in the Void Vessel. It's kind of flavored around the swords, and it's basically where you're going to have to go to farm the pieces for the swords so that you can craft these weapons or research them. And it basically has enemies that kind of are very melee focused and kind of attack you like that. And of course, you'll be able to use swords in it. And then there's even a section where you can ride with the fucking bikes, and you can boost and jump and all of that stuff. So I think it's a little bit bigger, perhaps in size, to what we've seen so far in the Void Vessel, but obviously the sections that you can use the bike and stuff like that is going to make you be able to kind of get through it faster. Now, it is a different map though and everything like that, and so it seems like they're going to bolt some additional content onto this. So this medium-sized facility might be the first thing that we're getting, and possibly later on in season 3 we're going to get more things and everything. So kind of yes, you'll still be doing action and all of that for all of the rest of the shit, but for everything sword flavored and so on, and possibly, I guess, some additional things which you're going to be seeing later on in season 3, they're going to be dropping it into this activity for you to essentially do that. So that's this new medium-sized facility section in the Void Vessel. Then we were also shown 3 new trigger modules. These 3 trigger modules are kind of like very niche and very specific, if I can put it that way. You'll understand it a little bit more when we go through them. So the first one is called Supply Fortress and is for descendants that use barrier kind of skills, like for example Ajax. I was thinking this morning, while I was doing the script and stuff, I was like, I think Ajax is the only one that does barriers right now. I don't think there's any other descendants that do barriers or have a barrier like skill. I could be wrong. It's entirely possible that I'm wrong. We have a lot of descendants now, so one of them could have some obscure barrier skill. But yes, this is pretty much Ajax orientated. And so the footage that they were showing was essentially that basically what the skill does is, as long as you have a barrier up, then as the barrier takes damage, you actually regen ammunition. So it's like a way for you to bolster up your ammunition and everything. So that's pretty damn sweet. Ajax is coincidentally one of the descendants that's going to be receiving a rework or a balance update or whatever you want to call it in the coming weeks. And so this is like kind of like, I guess, coinciding with that at the right time. So that's pretty cool. It's gonna be a nice addition to him to essentially turn him into like this fucking, you know, bastion, and you can throw up your barriers, then regen some of your ammo. Works really well when you're running with a fucking sword, because as you're burning through ammo with the sword using special abilities, you throw up your barrier. As enemies shoot the barrier and come through the barrier, they regen ammunition for your sword, and you just keep on fucking, you know, wailing on them. So pretty cool. I mean, I think it works as a concept, so that's all right. The second one that we saw was something called Wave Eruption. This is kind of like for descendants that use skills that ramp up damage. So like that channel, if I can put it that way. Good example was Blair that they showed in the footage. So essentially Blair has that flamethrower fucking skill that he shoots out of his hand. So basically what this does is, for every tick, as long as you have this trigger module equipped, for every tick that damage kill ticks, the trigger module will ramp up the damage per tick as well. So that's pretty damn sweet. And then what it also does at the same time is it reduces incoming damage also by every tick, because by design, these abilities where you essentially channel and push out damage or something like that can potentially make you a little bit more vulnerable to damage. And so therefore this essentially gives you a little bit more, you know, sustain and ability to stay in the fight with this damage reduction. And then, you know, you're also pushing out more damage. Now, coincidentally, they actually showed this off against Power Beyond in the footage, and while it kind of like seemed like they were struggling to get it going, and you know, obviously it was being affected by things like how many crits they were getting and so on, it was actually outperforming Power Beyond, which is kind of like the de facto trigger module that you pretty much put in all skill based descendants now, just for that flat fucking damage increase that you get, unless you have some other specific utility that you're seeking out of a trigger module. So I mean obviously they're trying to also just incentivize people to use some other shit. And so yeah, this does look like it performs pretty well. It's actually got a pretty decent damage ramp up. I think it was pushing out like 35 million additional damage per cast or something like that, which is nothing to fucking sneeze at. The last trigger module out of the 3 new ones that they showed was Rhythmic Step. So I mean, by the name alone, you should know who this is for. And this basically says that any descendant that uses something like that you have to do in like a rhythm or something like that, which at the moment right now is only Luna. It essentially, this gives you like 2 decent buffs. First of all, it increases your movement speed per stack of this buff, and then it also increases your max shield per stack of this buff. So just a way for you to essentially move around faster with Luna while you are actually using her abilities, everything. So this, I believe, is a complaint that a lot of players have, especially in group-based content. If they run Luna and other people run like Innes and fucking Bunny and whatever, is that once they are on their fucking instrument and they're zooming around, everything like that, they deal decent damage, but they struggle to keep up with these descendants because these descendants nuke the fucking screen and then leave. So this potentially has the chance of maybe making that not be the case anymore. However, I don't think this necessarily solves that problem. I still think those descendants are just far too fucking fast, even with a buff like this, to essentially keep up. But hey, we'll only know once we test it. At the very least, it's going to make it a little bit less fucking shit, right? So, you know, I mean, we've got to give credit where credit's due. So at least it's a step in the right direction. But yes, those 3 new trigger modules are there. Of course, all 3 of these new trigger modules come from, you guessed it, the new Void Vessel. So if you want these 3 new trigger modules, you're going to have to go farm in the new Void Vessel activity alongside the sword pieces that you're looking for and everything else. And they quickly also just showed some changes that they made to the lab. So the first thing is they've included the new faction that we have in the game now as well. as well as they've made it that you can add bigger groups. And I think previously the biggest you could add was a group of 9, and now you can go all the way up to 50, I believe. So the idea being that you can test your AoE skills and everything big, better, and have more enemies out, bigger numbers, big hoo-ha, everything like that. So yeah, cool. The lab, just some additional work being on there, and like I said, also the other faction was also included now. Then with every new big patch that we get, of course, we know that we're getting a refresh on the Abyss boss, so it's time for the new one. This bad boy is called the Lava Citadel, which is modeled after the Molten Fortress. So in other words, a big fucking, fire turtle. And of course, because it is fire-based, that means that it's weak to chill / ice. So it's time to break out Viesa and Haley and so on. My assumption is we're going to be able to snipe the fuck out of him with Haley, hopefully again. At the very least, they were using Viesa to cut him down. And while it wasn't what I would be, consider the fastest kill, I'm sure that it can be improved and everything like that. But yeah, so definitely break out those QOL Descendants. They're going to be doing in the work on this Abyss boss, and this new Abyss boss, like I said, also then launches on the 1st of October. It did also quickly show off the 2, I would say, quality of life things, the 2 big ticket items, which I made specific videos for prior, like maybe last week or something like that. Time melds together. The first one being that now your amorphous materials, you don't have to, or you don't have to go open them up by fighting void intercept bosses, everything like that. Is actually a terminal in the city in Albion, next to where you actually do your research, where you can essentially just go and you can just open up these amorphous materials like fucking en masse. And I'm sure most of us have like 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 of these fucking things lying in our inventory. And so now you'll just be able to go through all of them. You'll be able to get those plans out, which you can either then use to research or fucking sell them. Or you can, you'll be getting catalysts and all that stuff, and you can basically research them to be able to develop more of your characters. A concern that I originally had was that this would cost money or some kind of a currency or material that you would have to use to pay for this in the city. Now, from what we saw, the footage that we saw, this is not the case. So, crisis fucking averted there. Good shit. So yeah, so pretty cool. They also did show that what the reactors look like now. So we know that reactor optimization is completely going away. So we don't have to worry about fucking, optimizing weapon types onto it anymore. And then we lose our power when we switch to different weapon types, all of that stuff. So that's completely gone away now. So you can see, and essentially what they did is they took the 60% that you would get from optimizing, and they just added that on top. So a fun thing that I want to do though is I want to measure exactly if they did the exact 60, or they nerfed us a little bit, or they pushed a little bit more, or something like that. It's going to be interesting. I've recorded some footage just from different Descendants just to test and just have a few test cases. So that's definitely something that I'll check once the actual patch goes live. But they did also show that to us. And next they also showed Kyle. So Kyle is one of the Descendants. So as far as they indicated during this presentation, in the coming weeks, we're going to be seeing optimizations to Kyle. We're going to be seeing Ajax. We're going to be seeing Izimo, and we're going to be seeing Bunny. For some reason, again, Bunny keeps getting fucked with. I think Bunny's in an okay place right now. I think there's other Descendants who are desperately fucking begging to be noticed. Haley, like in the back here going like, please God help me. But nonetheless, those are the 4 that they specifically mentioned, especially in the Q&A, because Haley was also brought up in the Q&A. They did show off Kyle. Essentially, Kyle, his skills kind of like feel very shit to use, because like, for example, if you use his shoulder charge, he kind of like has this awkward fucking stop. He used to be able to do it while moving, and it would actually be like almost like a movement based skill, but they fucking changed that like a while ago, like ages ago. And I don't know if we're completely back yet, but it's kind of like some of the changes I saw was also meant to address that. However, they didn't really show any details and numbers and stuff like that, but they did mention that it is on par with like the change that they made to Lepic, which was fucking substantial. Like a lot of Lepic shit changed a lot. So I think this is one of those cases where we're going to have to just wait until we get the actual patch notes in our hands, so we can just make a little bit more sense of that and kind of like look at that. But yes, Kyle was shown off. I don't know if that means that we get Ajax, Izimo, and Bunny also on the 1st of October and they just didn't show them, or if they just staggered out a little bit later in October. Again, that wasn't really clear with the translations. Maybe I misheard it, something like that. But it is possible, because we didn't just see Lepic changes when that patch came out. It's possible that they just showed Kyle and we're actually getting all 4. So let's wait and see. Patch notes should be in our hands soon. Then they did show the event pass. Now, this part of the video, this is actually going to be the last part of the video, and it's going to be a little bit of a, I don't know if you call it a fucking rant or something like that, but like, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. Okay. And I'm not gonna fucking go too hard in the fucking paint about this shit, but so specifically what the event pass is it's a month-long pass. It's 32 items, 4 pages worth of items. It looks a lot like the battle pass. It's like an extension of the battle pass, and you have to pay 1,000 caliber for that. And basically what this is there's some enhancement items in there. There's 2 what they call Transcendent skins. It's the first Transcendent skins in the game. Like red fucking skins, like super rare, oh my god skins. Both of these skins are for the swords. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so you're gonna pay 1,000 caliber, and you're gonna get some crystallization catalysts in here, and well, not some, I think there's fucking 1 in there. I didn't look at all the pages, I was just scanning over it. But there's a lot of like skins and fucking stickers and, you know, like the usual, sorry, bullshit that you do get on most of the pages on the fucking battle pass. But the price of this is a little bit like, at which point do we start like a little bit getting a little, like, look dude, the cosmetics and all of that stuff, this is all opt-in shit. Okay, so let me get because before people jump in and go like, hey dude, you just don't have to buy it, 100% agree with you, 100% agree with you, and I won't be buying it. Okay, but here's the thing, all right, just because you have this optional choice of buying something, and so you could just opt out and say fuck it, I'm not going to buy it, doesn't mean that you can't talk about the price and that the price is maybe a little bit too high. I also think that, you know, like an opportunity was potentially missed here for like putting these, why not put these fucking like super sexy ultimate edition fucking sword skins as a elite reward in this new Void Vessel for finishing it in a certain amount of time, and give people incentive to go in there, race with the fucking bikes, try to finish the shit fast, everything. Like, don't make it fucking impossible, but don't make it too easy either. But just put it in there as an incentive to play, and not just like, here's my fucking credit card, take my shit, and then, yeah, I don't know, dude. This isn't the first time that we saw something like this, but it's starting to become a little bit more noticeable. Like the fucking mask is starting to slip a little bit now. But like I said, a rant, if you will, maybe not, something like that. Just something that I wanted to share that's on the, you know, in the back of my mind. Something like, I think this is a little bit. It's like a little bit yeah, like, you know, it's fucking not cool, man. So yeah, but this event pass, as I said, will then have all of this shit in there. It's attached onto the fucking battle pass, but not like, you don't have to finish the battle pass before you can do the event pass. They can run simultaneously. The XP for the event pass is the same XP that fucking powers the battle pass. And so therefore, just by playing the game and doing the normal shit, you will end, you know, fucking receive the XP that you need for the event pass. But yeah, that's basically it. It's also kind of like it for the video. There was a Q&A afterwards. I scanned through some of the questions. I think I covered like a lot of like, by just random comments that I threw in through this video now, some of those questions. Of course, there'll be, I think, a lot more in-depth stuff that we can look at once we have the patch notes in our hands, and of course I'll make a video for that like I always do, and we could look at those and we can actually look at specific numbers and all that stuff. And then of course, once the swords are actually in our hands, we can start testing them and see how they perform. I think most likely they're probably going to be fucking OP. I think probably the big sword is, I don't know, from what I saw, looks pretty crazy. So they're probably going to be a bit busty. It's going to be interesting because I think they work really well with Descendants that are exceptionally good at dealing massive amounts of AoE damage, but then struggle a little bit to fucking knock down like a tough target. These swords are going to be the perfect fucking, you know, side piece to those kinds of Descendants, because they're going to address a direct weakness that you have by giving you real power in your hands. So that's pretty cool. It's going to allow for more well-rounded Descendants, or basically it's going to allow for Descendants which were previously just below meta in terms of like super good at clearing like fast but struggle on tougher enemies, to actually then rise up to meta and be able to compete with some of the meta choices that we have in the game right now. But super early to speculate. Of course, these are just fucking random thoughts in my head. We'll know more once we have the stuff in our hands. Let me know in the comments down below if there's anything that I didn't cover enough? Any other questions that you might have, or just something that you want to talk about? Tell me your thoughts about the price for the event pass. In general, how do you feel about this patch? Are you excited for the swords? Are you excited for the changes to the Descendants, which were announced? All of that stuff. Keep watching. Thank you very much for all the support. And as always, fucking cheers.